Okay, today's daf, Bez Hashem, is Masechta Avodah Zarah Daf Samach Dalet 64, and we're holding on the bottom of Samach Gimel Amid Beis, and the Gemara begins. Uh, the Gemara is talking about three different questions. Now, let us go back for a second to the Mishnah. Hi. Hi, Alan. We just began Samach Gimel Amid Beis, about 7 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah said that a Yid is not allowed to take a job by a guy to carry his Yayin Esach. Let's say a guy has real Yayin Esach and he hired a Yid to, transport the Yayin Esach. Okay, hold on. Hi, Lewis. We just began. Samach Gimel Amid Beis. So we're discussing over here what they said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that a guy who has a bunch of barrels of yayin esach wants to hire a Jew to, let's say, carry them and move them somewhere to transport them. So can the Jew benefit from that wages? He's not benefiting from the yayin esach itself. He's not drinking it. He's not putting it on his body. He's not selling it. He's just wants that the goy should have yayin esach, so the Jew could have a way to earn a wage. So the Mishnah teaches us that since the Jew is roitze b'kiyumai, he wants the Avodah Zarah to be around, and we're supposed to destroy Avodah Zarah. We're supposed to destroy Yayin Esach. So since he wants it to be around, so the Mishnah says that his wage is usher. You have to, as soon as he gets his wage, he has to throw it into the yam. You can't benefit from it. So now the Gemara asks a trick question. Yosef Rav Nachman v'Ula v'Avimi bar Papi. Rav Nachman, Ula, and Avimi bar Papi were sitting around. V'Yosef Rav Chia bar Ami Gabayhu, and Rav Chia bar Ami was also amongst that group. V'Yosef v'Kamabayle. They were all thinking about a good question. Mishnah said that you're not allowed to take a job by a guy to transport his yayin esech. What happens? Schorai, the Jew was hired, lishbar b'yayin esech, to break the yayin esech, to like smash it and spill it out, and he'll get a wage for that. So, Mahu, what's the din? Can he accept a wage for that? Mi Amrim, do you say, Kivan the rights to Bikiyumai, since he wants the Yayin Esech to be around? So, Asr, that's Asr. Because, like I explained, one of the Isurim of why you can't accept a wage with a guy when you're dealing with Avodah Zarah is because we're supposed to be the one to destroy Avodah Zarah, not want it to be around so I could earn a wage. So here, this Yid wants the Avodah Zarah, the Yain Esech, to be around so he can have a wage to break it apart. But since his job is in sanitation, he's minimizing Avodah Zarah. He's getting rid of Yain Esech. So maybe that's good enough. Maybe that's good. He could take a wage for that. Amar Rab Nachman said, yes, you can take the job. Yishbar, let him break the Yayin Esech, and he can even take the job lechatchila, v'tovei ala bracha, and let him be blessed. That's a great job to have. A guy hires you to break up his avodah zarah, you're allowed to. That's a good job. So Layman Messiah, let us bring a proof to Rab Nachman that there is an idea that if you're doing something to destroy, then we'll suspend the Isser of Roitze B'Kiyumoi. Now, the Mishnah is discussing Kalayim. The Mishnah says, Ein Oidrin im Hagoy B'Kalayim. A goy who has Kalayim, whatever, let's say it's wheat and barley planted together, you're not allowed to work his field. Okay? You're not allowed to, let's say, dig in his field. We go to Samach Dalet Amar Aleph. Avol, but what happens? The guy hires you. You're allowed to be hired by the guy to minimize, to get rid of the kalaya. So now that's what the Mishnah says. So you're allowed to be hired by a guy to destroy the kalaya. Now, the fact is there an isser to hold on to kalayim? You're not allowed to plant kalayim. Let's say somebody buys kalayim from a guy. Let's say he buys a field planted with kalayim from a guy and then puts up a fence around it and showing that he wants to keep it. So is there an issa? So there is an opinion, Rabbi Akiva, who we're going to learn, who holds you get malchus for that. So therefore, by Kalayim itself, there's an isser to be Mekayim Kalayim. Nevertheless, if a guy hires you and to get rid of Kalayim, to uproot the Kalayim, even though there's an isser to keep the Kalayim around, so you basically want the Kalayim to be around, so you could have a job to uproot the Kalayim, that's good enough. So that's a raya to Rab Nachman. Savruhu, the Rabbanan thought, how many this price is Rabbi Akivahi. The Amar, who says that by Kalayim, there's not only an Issa to make Kalayim, but there's an Issa to keep it. You're not allowed to want it. The Tanya, we learned to the Brisa, Hamanakesh, Hamachapa B'Kalayim, like if someone does some work in a field with Kalayim, he covers, let's say, the seeds with dirt, and he plants it in the soil, he gets malchus. The Rabbi Kiva says, Af hamakayim. If someone else made climb, and another person, the guy that wants to show he's keeping the climb, he puts up a fence around the climb. You get malchus for that. My Tama, what's the reason, the Rabbi Kiva? Where does the Torah say you're not allowed to, the Torah seems to imply you're not allowed to plant climb. But how do you know you're not allowed to keep climb? Amakra, so the Pasuk says, Sod chalai sizra climb. The Torah tells you you cannot plant climb. Ainly Zarah. I only know you're not allowed to plant climb. Mekayim and how do I know you're not allowed to keep the climb? Talmud loyma loy climb. We darshan sotcha loy climb. It's something like that. Climb besotcha loy. So we darshan that you're not allowed to have climb in your field by you keeping it. That's how Rabbi Kiva darshans it. So, but nevertheless. So therefore, you're not allowed to keep Kalayim. Nevertheless, if the goy hires you to uproot Kalayim, so you want the goy to have the Kalayim so you can uproot it. You're allowed to take such a job. Ve'ilu lemute tifla shari. So you're allowed to uproot it to minimize any avodah zarah in this place. Any Kalayim. So we can apply the same thing. By if a guy hires you to smash his avodah zarah or to break his yayin esach, you're allowed to take such a job. That's a good raya. Says the Gemara, loy, not such a raya. Maybe Kalayim, there is no iser to be mekayim Kalayim. And harnimani rabbanin he. The author of that Mishnah that says you're allowed to take a job with a guy to destroy his Kalayim is rabbanim. There is no iser. So the Gemara says, "Irabbanim, my oikr nafil kiyumin nami shapi dami." But Rabbanim, you don't. There's such a chiddush. You're allowed to take a job to uproot Kalayim. According to Rabbanim, you're allowed to put up a fence around Kalayim, as long as you're not planting Kalayim. So Hakabamayaskim, the brisa over there, is going to the Ovid Bechinam. That maybe the brisa is telling you you're allowed to take a job for free. If the guy says, "Can you help me uproot my Kalayim?" You're allowed to take that job for free. And Rabbi Yehudihi, the Amar who said, "Litten lehem matnas chinim aser." One is not allowed to give a free gift to a goy. That's aser. You're not allowed to show any friendship. But if the goy is asking you for a favor to uproot his Kalayim, we'll suspend that iser of not giving free favors to goyim. We'll suspend that iser because you're uprooting Kalayim. So that's maybe the chiddush of the Mishnah, but really, it's no proof to Rav Nachman's situation. So the Gemara says, "Mid Rabbi Yehuda nishma Rabbi Akiva." We can apply whatever you say about Rabbi Yehuda will apply to Rabbi Akiva. Lav Rabbi Yehuda. Didn't Rabbi Yehuda said, "Asa litin lehem matnas chinam." There's an issue to give a free gift to a goy. Nevertheless, avalamute tifla, to work for free to uproot his Kalayim shapedami. You're allowed to do that. So then, say the same thing. Rabbi Kiva Nami, according to Rabbi Kiva also, Afagav Rabbi Kiva, even though Rabbi Kiva says, Hamakayim B'Kalayim Loika, if you keep Kalayim, you get Malchus, L'mu'ute Tif L'Shapedami. You'll suspend that Isser of being Mekayim Kalayim if you're hired to smash it, to uproot the Kalayim. So then the Gemara says, Sulay Midei. So we have total proof. Don't ask any more questions. In other words, we have a beautiful proof. You're not allowed to take a job with a guy to transport his yayin esech. If he's hired me, help me carry it from here to there, you cannot take a job. And if you get paid for that job, you have to rip up your paycheck. Now, If the guy is hiring you, and the reason is because you're right bikiyuma, you want the yayin esech to be around, the avodah zarah to be around, and that's the Chanamim knast you for that. However, if you're hired to destroy the avodah zarah, to destroy the yayin esech, so you want it to keep around so you can make money. Nevertheless, since your job is destruction, everything is suspended. And you see that same idea by Kalayim, that although there's an Issa to Mikayim Kalayim, according to Rabbi Akiva, nevertheless, if you're hired to destroy the Kalayim by the Goy, then you're allowed to take such a job. Next question. Hada Yasve Mikabayil, they had another question. The May Avodah Zarah biyad Goy Mahu. We know if I have an Avodah Zarah, if I have an Avodah Zarah, if I sell it, the money is Asr Bahana, for sure. What happens if a Goy has an Avodah Zarah and just sold it? What happens to that money? Ma, what do you say to that money? Me, Taifesas Demea Biyad Goy. Is there a change? Does the money take on the tuma of the avodah zarah, and you can't benefit from that money or not? Do we say that when a goy sells avodah zarah, does the money that he receives have the same iser as the avodah zarah, where a Jew cannot benefit from that? Amalu Rab Nachman said, "Mistavra to me avodah zarah biyad goy mutarim." When a goy sells an avodah zarah and you receive money back, it's mutter. How do you know that? Midahani the asle kami to Rabba Bavu. There were people who came to Rabba Bavu and they wanted to become gerim, right? There were guys, goyim that came to Rabba Baravu and wanted to become a ger. Amalu, so Rabba Baravu says, Zil zabin kol ma'adi islechu v'su igairu. First sell all your avodah zaros, and then you could become a ger. What do they gain if they sell the avodah zaros? The money that they receive will also be aser. My tamo, because it must be Rabbi Baravu held Mishum Diksava Demei Avodah Zarah Biyad Goy Mutarim. If a guy sells Avodah Zarah, that money is mutar. So the Gemara says no proof. The Dil Mashana Hasam even the Daiti Laguri Vade Bitla. Since they have their intentions to become gerim, so before they sold the avodah zarah, they vatal the avodah zarah. They said it's worthless, and therefore the money that they receive is selling junk. So memela, therefore that money is not usher. However, why did Rabbi Bavo advise them to sell them the money, sell the avodah zarah while they're goyim still before the geris? Because if they would sell the avodah zarah while they're Jews, then it becomes totally awesome, because a Jew cannot be mevatel an avodah zarah. That's why he advised them to sell the avodah zarah while they're still gerim. So there's no proof from there. What happens if a guy sells an avodah zarah? What's the din with the money? So the Gemara says, from here it's a proof. Let's say Yisrael was owed by a guy a mana, $100, right? The guy owed a Jew $100. If the guy had to sell his avodah zarah to pay the Jew back, or the yayin nesach to pay the Jew back, the Jew can keep the money. So we see from there that if a guy sells something and gives the money to a Jew, sells his avodah zarah and gives the money to a Jew, it's mutter. Says the Brisa continues, Aval im amaloi hamten li achemka avodah zarah avi lecha yayin nesach avi lecha aser. If the guy told the Jew, wait a minute, I'm going to sell the avodah zarah and bring you the money, I'm going to sell the yayin nesach and bring you the money, then it's also for the Jew to take the money. Says the Gemara, Maishna Reisha, Maishna Sefer. Why is it in the end of the Brisa we say that if the guy says, wait till I sell my avodah zarah, and then I'll give you the money, the Yid cannot receive that money. Amar Rav Sheshes said, Seifa mishum dahavalei kiroitzu b'kiyuma. The end of the Brisa is because the Jew wants the money to be, the avodah zarah to be around, so that the guy should have something to sell to pay him back. So since, so to speak, in the mind of the Jew, he likes that the avodah zarah is by the guy, so we don't allow him to keep that money. It's only if the guy sells the avodah zarah without telling the Jew how he got the money, the Jew can receive that money. Says the Gemara, if a Jew wants the avodah zarah in such a situation, would you say that it would be asr if he's doing something wrong? You see, here the Jew wants the avodah zarah to be around long enough so that the goish who says, "Let me sell it and then I'll give you money," that the fact that the Jew is in support of that idea that the guy should keep his avodah zarah around to have enough money to pay him, to sell it and have him off and payment and pay him, is the Jew is doing something aser. How do you know? Is that true? But now we learned to the Mishnah. Ger v'garsh yarsha aviyam goy. Ger yochel loy maloi tul at avodah zarah animois. A ger and a goy, they inherited their father. And the ger could say to his brother, "You take the avodah zarah, and I'll take the money. Tulat yayin nesach ani peris. I could take the fruits," even though you see that the ger wants the avodah zarah to be around, so he can give that to his guy brother, so he can get the money. So if the ger took possession of the avodah zarah, also then he's not allowed to give it to his brother. But prior to that, even if he just wants it around so that his goy brother could have something to inherit, that's fine. So how do you? So we see roitze b'kiyumi that way is not usher. The first the Gemara attempts to answer this question, that Gemara, that Mishnah, is talking about the Avodah Zarah, that the guy really doesn't need it, the ger doesn't need it to be around. Because even if the Avodah Zarah got smashed, it's worth something. It's made of gold and silver, which can be divided into valuable items as a broken item. So therefore, the ger doesn't really need it. He doesn't want it to be kiyum. He doesn't care. So the Gemara says, "Tenach avodah zarah yainesa ma'yikil." That explains the avodah zarah case of the Mishnah. But yainesa, how could you say yainesa be smashed up, and the guy and the ger wants it that way? Doesn't care if it's that way because it's worth something. And says the Gemara, "Becheres hader yoni," the Hadrian vessel, which is actually like shaped as a vessel, but it's yain nesach, the vessel. That's usually a pottery that's broken up into parts, where you can take the parts and put it into water and make wine with it. That they had it was a technology used for the soldiers to have wine out there in the war. Anyway, so we see that the ger doesn't care that the avodah zarah stays around. Says the Gemara about loy writes a bikiyuma, he does care. The ger does care that the avodah zarah doesn't get stolen or lost, so he'll have what to give his brother. So, and yet you say again that if a ger wants the avodah zarah to be around, that's not an iser. So how do you say over here when a guy says, wait to the Jew, wait till I sell my avodah zarah and I'm going to pay you with my sale the loan that I owe you? That's usher because the Jew wants the avodah zarah to be around. And how come in this case we don't say that? Elamar Papa Yerushas Ger Ka'amret Sha'ani Yerushas Ger the Kili Barabanan Gzeir Shem Yachsa the Kukulei. Really, it's an avera to roitze b'kiyumai, want the avodah zarah to be around, and the ger is doing something wrong over here. But we really want to go strong and tell him, oh, you can't do that to your brother. You have to take a loss because we are afraid that the ger will, if you're too strong on him, he's going to turn back to be a guy. Once he's a ger, we do whatever we can to make sure he remains a ger. So therefore, they went light on him. But normally, it's aser l'roitze b'kiyumai. And the same thing out here. Tanya, we go to Amud Beis. Tanya namihache b'meder am yarshu av nishtatu aser. So if they had a partnership, then it's aser. A partnership which doesn't come up that often. If it comes to that, and the ger and the goy are in partnership, and they have to divide it up. If the ger is roitze b'kiyumai and avodah zarah, that's aser for him to take any benefit, have any benefit from that. So bottom line is that except for Yerusha Sager, if a goy tells a Jew, a goy owes money to a Jew, and then had to sell his avodah zarah to pay the Jew, that's fine. But if the goy tells the Jew, wait a second, I have this beautiful avodah zarah, wait a month till I sell it, and then I'll pay you, then you can't accept that money anymore. Because what's the avera? His avera is that he wishes that the goy keeps the avodah zarah in good shape so he can sell it, so he'll have money to pay back. And roitze b'kiyumai, want the avodah zarah to be around, is an avera for a Jew. Next thing, Yasva Mekamavayale, they had the third question of the night. Ger v'toisus mal shivatel avodah zarah. We know a goy can be mavatel avodah zarah. A goy can say this avodah zarah is worthless. What about a ger toishev? A ger toishev is a type of goy that's committed not to serve Avodah Zarah. So because he doesn't serve Avodah Zarah at all, so can he mevatel? Can he nullify anybody's Avodah Zarah? Because we can say bipalach mevatel. The ones that serve Avodah Zarah and a guy that serves Avodah Zarah could nullify an Avodah Zarah. The regular guy, the loy palach, a ger toishev that doesn't serve Avodah Zarah, loy mevatel. He cannot nullify an Avodah Zarah. Or dilmo will you say called bar minei mevatel v'hai bar minehu. Anybody who is a guy, even a guy that doesn't serve idols, could also be mevatel avodah zarah because at the end of the day he's still a guy. Amalu Rav Nachman said mistavra the palach mevatel the loy parach loy mevatel. Rav Nachman said that I think that a ger toishev cannot nullify an avodah zarah because he doesn't serve idols. So therefore, his battle by him saying that avodah zarah is worthless is nothing, because just like a Jew can't say to a guy's avodah zarah it's worthless, it's only somebody who values the avodah zarah now turns around and says it's worthless. Then that's called a nullification of avodah zarah. But a ger toishev cannot do that. Says the Gemara. Meisvei, I'll ask a question against Rav Nachman. Yisrael shemotza avodah zarah b'shuk. Achloi basel yodai. I'm the goyim avatla. A Yisrael that found an avodah zarah in the street. So he sees an avodah zarah in the street. Until he picks it up, he can tell another guy to nullify it, and then he could pick it up, and it's his. But if he picked it up already, he cannot tell a guy to mivatal because now it's a Jew's avodah zarah. Because we said like this: once it's still on the street, you could call another guy over to be mevatal it, because guy mevatal avodah zarah shaloi v'shal chaverei. A guy can nullify his own avodah zarah and his friend's avodah zarah. Bein oivda, whether he serves it, bein she'ein oivda, when he doesn't serve it. So shaloi v'shal chaverei, and bein oivda bein she'ein oivda seems to be the same thing. Ma oivda ma she'ein oivda. What does it mean? A goy can mevatel on avodah zarah, whether he serves it or whether he doesn't serve it. It's both by a guy that worships avodah zarah, and he can mevatel his own avodah zarah, and he can mevatel his friend's avodah zarah. That's not his avodah zarah. Well, that's the same thing. That's what it means in the Brisa. Shaloi v'shal chaver. That's the same idea. So why does it repeat itself? Elalav, it's telling you another idea. Oivda, if you serve it, that means goy. A regular guy that serves avodah zarah can nullify an avodah zarah. And what's mash ein oivda? What's a guy that doesn't serve avodah zarah? That's a ger toishav. And what does the Brisa say? That even if you don't serve idols, you could mevatel. If you're a guy that doesn't serve idols, you could be mevatel on avodah zarah. You can nullify. So shmami na. From here we see not like Rab Nachman. Ger toishav nami mevatel. A ger toishav who doesn't serve idols could also nullify the avodah zarah. And says the Gemara, loy, not so. Loy leimelach idivi the goy. Both of them are talking about a goy, and shaloi v'shal chaveroi, and oivda ve'ena oivda. But udekamer and hainu shaloi v'shal chaveroi, reisha shaloi v'shal chaveroi means zel apar. They both serve the idol par. So imagine you go over to the guy and say, I know you serve par, mevatel this par that probably belonged to somebody else. Or zel markulis. They both serve the idol markulis. So you tell one guy, I know you serve markulis, be mevatel this markulis. So he's a guy that serves markulis, he's mevatel his friend's markulis. Seifa, the end of the Brisa, teaches you another idea. Zela pa'ar v'zela markulis. That this guy serves pa'ar. The other friend serves markulis. So you could ask the person that serves pa'ar to be mevatel the idol of markulis. So, but he still serves idols. He's just mevatel somebody else's idol, which represents something else. So that's fine. But could be a ger toishav who doesn't serve idols at all cannot be mevatel anything. Only if you serve idols, whether this one or that one, you could be mevatel idols. One last question, then we'll stop. Meisvei, we learned in the Brisa, Ezu ger toishav. What makes a ger toishav? Kol shekibel ol b'fnei gimel chaverim shloi lavid avodah zarah divrei Rameir. Rameir holds, like we've been explaining, that as long as the guy says I'll never serve idols, he's called a ger toishav. And what's the nafkamina? What do I need to know he's a ger toishav? It's very important because you have to give tzedakah. If he needs tzedakah, we have an obligation to give tzedakah to a ger toishav. The Chacham says, what makes a ger toishev? Kol shekibel olav sheva mitzvahs shekibel olay b'nei noyach. He has to mekabel on himself, except all the 7 mitzvahs of b'nei noyach. Achei Ramayim says, Eilu loy bo l'chlal toishev. That's not a ger toishev. Le'ezu ger toishev. What's called a ger toishev? Zeh ger oichel nevelis shekibel olav kal mitzvahs amuris b'torah chutz mitzvahs nevelis. A ger that says, I'm not going to keep kosher, but I'm going to keep all the other surim in the Torah. I'm not going to, make kalayim or something like that. But kosher, I'm not going to. I don't. I'm going to keep. I'm not going to keep. So that is a ger toishav, and therefore, what makes a ger toishav special? Miyachtem etzlo yain. They're allowed to be alone with wine, with the Jewish wine. They mafkinu etzlo yain, but you can't keep the wine there for a long time in the house of these ger toishav. Vafilu b'iri Yisrael Yisrael, even if a city that's mostly Jews. You can keep by them wine even in a city that's mostly goyim. And then the Brisa says, Shamnoi kiyenoi. His oil is also like his wine. His oil is like yayin nesach. So his shemen is like yayin nesach. Shamnoi kiyenoi sal kadaitach. Shemen mikahava yayin nesach. Does anybody hold that shemen is also bahanoah like yayin nesach? Why would a ger toishav's oil be also like yayin nesach? Ella, we said like this: Yenoi, the wine of a ger toishav is not also bahanoah. It's kishamnoi, like the oil of a goy, in the early gezerah, where it's just also to eat. So just like the oil of a goy is also to eat, the wine of a goy is also to drink of the ger toishav. And here comes the point: Ushal kordova harehu kagoy. For any other item, he is like a goy. Ger toishav is like a goy. This is a very important point. Some say that Ger Toishav Shimon said his wine is aser bahana, and some say Rabbi Shimon said, a Ger Toishav, you can even drink his wine. But the bottom line is, and here's the end: Ketanamiya, the partial quote of the Brisa, that a Ger Toishav is like a goy. Ushar kol dvarav hayik goy. Lamai hilchasa. What does that teach you? You're a goy. Alav, doesn't it mean the mavatal avodah zarah kagoy, that he could be mavatal and avodah zarah like a goy, like a regular goy that serves idols? So this is not like Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said that a ger toishav cannot mavatal avodah zarah. This brisa seems to say that a ger toishav could be mavatal avodah zarah. So the Gemara is going to answer this question, and that will be for another time.
Shakaya, thank you.
Okay. Continues the Gemara and answers Rab Nachman Yitzchak. Rab Nachman Yitzchak answered this question. And he says, really, a ger toishav is different than a goy in the respect of that his nullification of avodah zarah is not effective. But what does the Brisa mean to say, and he's like a goy when it comes to other matters? Amar Rab Nachman Yitzchak loy litin rishus levat rishus. In order to give his chotzer over to the rest of the chotz, to the rest of the bnei chatzeres. So we know the concept of ruve chatzeres. You have a bunch of Jews with houses that enter into a common courtyard. They have to make an erev. What happens if one of the people living in the courtyard is a goy? So the Bryce is going to say that him, in order to be part of this erev, we have to rent his courtyard, his house from him, or his part of the courtyard from him. It's not enough to say, oh, you can have it. We have to actually pay money to rent it out. But when it comes to a yid, he can just say it and say you can have my share in the courtyard. Let's say, in other words, you made an erev and you forgot to add one person living in the courtyard, and he is, the Brisa says, Yisrael Meshumad, Meshama Shabbat B'Shuk. In the public, he keeps Shabbos. In the private, he's Mechal Shabbos. So, Mevatel Rishus. Then all he has to do, if you want him to be part of the Erev and it's already too late, Shabbos, he can say, I nullify my Rishus to you, you Jews who keep Shabbos, and then we can carry in the courtyard. She'ein Meshabbat B'Shabbat B'Shuk. Let's say he's such a Meshumad that he doesn't even keep Shabbos in public, and certainly in private, he doesn't keep Shabbos. Eimid vatal rishus. Then he can't nullify his rishus and say, oh, be part of it, because he doesn't really mean it. because he's at least he's not keeping Shabbos at all, public or private. Because they said like this: Yisrael nois rishus mavat rishus. He can give his rishus and nullify his rishus to the rest of the courtyard. Uvagoy, and with a guy, achiskar. And once you're a guy, we have to actually rent it from you. And if we didn't rent it from you, we're not allowed to carry it in the courtyard. We can't rent because again, once you have you didn't make an eruv with one person in the courtyard, then it's really like two different courtyards belonging to different people, even though it looks like one common your courtyard. And Chazal made a gzera, you can't carry from your own domain to your friend's domain. So that's why we all have to be one on Shabbos. So in order to deal with the guy who lives in the common courtyard, you have to rent his share of the courtyard from him. Ketzad, how do we say by a Jew, Noisin Rishus Sumavato Rishus, Oy Maloi, Rishusi Knuilach? He has to just verbally say, my Rishus is acquired by you. Or he can say, Rishusi, my part of the Chatzir is Muvutalas Lacha. So even just with words, without money, he can say, my domain is nullified into yours, and like as if I don't have any part of it. So kana, so then it works, and you can take it from him. So you don't have to acquire it from him. It's now part of the one domain that we join together. So that's by a Jew. By a goy, we have to rent it from. A ger toishev has a din like a goy in this matter of a ruve chetzeres, and not like a Jew. And that was the chiddush of that's what the chiddush of that brisa. Okay, we stop over here. A good shot.